Hello folks, this is part 2 of a 10-part series where I'll be covering all the Kingdom Hearts games in their entirety, so if you haven't seen my Kingdom Hearts Final Mix video yet, there will be a playlist in the description. Just a disclaimer, because this is a complete review, story and gameplay spoilers will be prevalent here, so I would recommend playing the games to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. With that out of the way, it's time to cover what many consider the black sheep of the series: Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories and its PS2 remake. Let's begin! After the enormous success of Kingdom Hearts on the PS2, a sequel was without a doubt inbound. Nearly 2 years later, that game finally arrived on the Game Boy Advance in November of 2004. And that game was... well, it's in the title. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, folks. While perceived by many as a spin-off due to it being on a competitor system, as well as housing a drastically different gameplay style, Chain of Memories still managed to score and sell surprisingly well, wearing a proud badge of 76 out of 100 on Metacritic and shipping over 1.5 million units. The title was both praised for its beautiful graphics and interesting narrative thread, which would tie into later games. 3 years later, with the release of Kingdom Hearts 2's Final Mix Plus edition in Japan, a second disc was bundled at launch. Within that disc was a fully remade version of Chain of Memories, developed by the Square Enix Osaka division, now known as the Osaka team, who has been in charge of making Kingdom Hearts titles since then. Released in 2008 in the US as Chain of Memories, this version of the game updated the original version's gameplay, making use of a fully 3D environment and implementing reaction commands from Kingdom Hearts 2. Even with the objective improvements over the original, this game actually did worse, raking in an average score of 68 out of 100 and selling less than 900,000 copies worldwide. That is abysmal, but not surprising. However, by looking at both games side by side, which one is actually better? Is it the much more simple GBA version, or its more polished yet complex PS2 counterpart? The answer is in the heart of the cards, folks. To clarify a few things up, I'm playing Chain of Memories on a Wii U Game Boy Advance emulator and Chain of Memories on the PS4 HD collection. The ideal versions I'd recommend playing these on are an actual Game Boy Advance and the PS2 version respectively for reasons I'll get into later. Although good footage is good footage, so you'll be seeing a lot more of Rechain than the original. Okay, everything is now cleared up. Time for the thesis. In case you forgot what happened last time, Sora, with the help of Mickey Mouse and Riku, defeated Ansem and closed the door to darkness. Following that, our trio of heroes are left in search of their missing friends. Pluto is seen off in the distance, holding a letter with the King's seal. Thus, the gang quickly pursues him. This is right where Chain of Memories picks up, seamlessly continuing the adventure. As Donald and Goofy rest for the night, Sora explores the valley, only to come across a mysterious figure in a black hood. He ominously tells Sora that he must lose something in order to claim what's important to him. We then see a young girl drawing, with a plush angel trapped in the cage beside her. As she puts down her piece, the very structure composed of crayon leads Sora to Castle Oblivion. Him and his friends decide to enter the domain, only to all have an eerily similar feeling that their missing companions are inside. The unknown figure appears once again, but when Donald tries to cast various spells on him, nothing happens. The man explains that the very moment they set foot into the castle, they forgot every bit of combat they knew. In other words, they dropped to level 1. He then shares the phrase synonymous with this world.
In this place, to find is to lose, and to lose is to find. That is the way in Castle Oblivion.
Sampling Sora's memories in a similar fashion to Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, the figure leaves the gang with a card to Traverse Town. More precisely, Sora's memories of Traverse Town. There, he will meet people from his past, making new memories and forgetting the old. Stepping in through the door, we learn that every card that contains such a world is but an illusion, shaped by the memories of the one who holds it. Between the outer hall and the inner room, Donald and Goofy were transformed into friend cards as the laws of the castle pervade. Despite obviously being the main villain, this guy isn't all soulless as we learn about combat from him. He doesn't go over a lot, so explaining it right now would only make the expanded portion a bit redundant. After this encounter, the game thinks we don't know how to press triangle, so it decides to teach us a tutorial on picking up objects and interacting with the environment, something that only took the GBA version 10 seconds to do. Take this! Darn it! Whatever, I should explain how the battles bookend at least. Unlike last time, fights don't take place on the same plane. Instead, you engage in combat sections by running into or striking an enemy. This will expand into its own arena, modeled after each world, and clearing all the enemies in a battle will yield you a map card. You can get any one of 26 cards throughout each battle, with a few being limited off until further progress is reached. In the original, you could only get 23 cards, with the Roulette Room, Bottomless Darkness, and Joker cards added to Rechain. To add to this, there are 3 types of map cards used for each room, with a 4th Criteria card used to advance the story and unlock bonuses. Red cards are your enemy map cards, which modify the behavior of each room's enemies. They can have stronger cards, weaker cards, sleep, or give you a certain bonus at the end of a battle. Status cards are marked by their particular green color. They're the rarest here, as you cannot obtain them above floor 10. Using these to enter a room will either change some of Sora's card values or debuff the enemies in battle. The 3rd primary map cards are the blue bounty cards, which will either yield you a bonus chest or a relief room containing a Moogle shop or save point. The only exception here is the Mingling Worlds card, essentially a Joker in terms of what it does, but is still only usable for particular rooms. The final of these are the aforementioned gold Criteria cards. There are only 4, with 3 of them strung together. The Key of Beginning, Guidance, and Truth cards are all used and obtained in that respective order. They merely progress each world's plot, nothing more. The most interesting of these is by far the Room of Rewards. Being locked behind steep conditions, each area will nab you at least 1 exclusive chest for entering it. Well, you can actually obtain 2 chests for each room, but I'll come back to that near the end. I explained all this before even entering our first room. I think it's time to move on. Using the Key of Beginnings, we run into Leon, or rather, an illusion of Leon. He doesn't seem to recognize us though, upsetting Sora. Their memories are obviously becoming more blurred because they don't even recall what the hooded man just said.
Here you will meet people that you have known in the past, and you will meet people you miss.
Even though he doesn't recognize the trio, he slips up and calls them all out by name, with the theory brought up by Aerith being that Sora's memories are affecting their own. And while we already learned about dealing basic combat not even 10 minutes ago, Leon decides to teach us everything we need to know, which makes for a perfect segue into how deep this game's battle system actually is. Don't be fooled by its simple to understand appearance. A ton of variables culminate inside of Chain of Memories, the most prominent being its combat cards. You and your enemies each have a set amount of cards, which can increase in amount and value as the game goes on. Printed on the bottom left of each card is a number. This number will determine its value overall, 1 being the lowest and 9 being the absolute highest number that a single card can have. Cards marked with a 0 are special. They can break any card played before it, but lose to any card presented after it. This makes it both the best and worst value simultaneously. Now you may be thinking, why are these numbers so vital? Simply put, your enemies have valued cards as well, all ranging from 0 to 9. Gradually increasing as you proceed in Castle Oblivion. Placing a card of greater value will break the opposing card. This works both ways, with the greater number card successfully attacking. If you both play the same number, then nothing happens. The only way to get a guaranteed jump on the enemies is by stacking multiple cards. In the GBA version, this is done by pressing the L and R buttons at the same time, whereas you just tap triangle in the PlayStation version. You are allowed to stack 3 cards at once, and the total value is what you play. Dully note that you cannot change any card in a stack unless you're playing Rechain. I'm so thankful they added this feature because a single slip of the hands can be the difference between breaking a card and being broken. The cards stacked and the value of those cards will also determine your slates later on. Slates are important because they become your special abilities that you once had in Kingdom Hearts 1, with unique skills being added to the repertoire. I also find it very interesting that different cards have diverse ranks and attributes dependent on where you place them in a combo, with some cards actually dealing higher damage depending on their placement. While that is undoubtedly a small detail that most people will pass over, it does open up advanced players to experiment with their options. Outside the red Keyblade cards are 3 other types of cards to use. Green cards stock items which will restore your deck's attack or magic when using either a potion or ether respectively, and using an elixir will bring back all of your used cards. Next up are the gray enemy cards, which are the hardest to come across. They give you a small bonus in battle, with some being more useful than others. They cost a lot of card power though, so think carefully of what to add to your deck. Last but not least are the blue cards, which cover all magic attacks and summons. Each summon acts as a slate, with 1 being the least amount you could use and 3 being the highest. Of course, some summons work better in varying versions of the game. For example, Cloud is near useless in ReChain's 3D arenas, but is an incredible summon to use when limited to the original's 2D plane. Speaking of which, let's go over the rest of the differences. Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance is a 2D action card game with the illusion of depth. Most enemies can be attacked from the ground, even airborne Heartless, which just puts the focus on land combat if anything. You also do not have the leisure of switching cards quickly during mid-combo. The card you start off with and the 2 in front of it are what you have to string together in order to achieve a finisher. Battles are also a lot quicker in this one, as fewer enemies and fewer waves of enemies appear. Visually, the game is made up of all original assets, as they're sprites compared to 3D models. Even the GBA's FMVs are, for the most part, original, only containing the brief scene from the end of the first game. Yeah, only 1 designated battle arena is assigned to each world, and a lot of the worlds react to map cards very similarly. But that's what I expect, considering that this is a budget title to save on development funds for the inevitable numbered sequel. ReChain, on the other hand, brings about some interesting parallels. The transition from handheld to console also means that this is the first Re-game in the series. I'll go more in depth on things like the HUD improvements and such once we get to KH2, but I'm only bringing up the core of the remake for now. The battle system now takes place in fully 3-dimensional environments, allowing for greater movement around the area and the satisfaction of killing enemies in the air. On top of this, the encounters feel a bit more methodical, with slight credence being given to the player, allowing them to connect cards that are placed adjacent to the following card in each combo. It is a slight change, but a very welcome one. However, visually, I found the game to be less impressive overall. Despite being a remake of a game composed entirely of original sprites, the assets in ReChain are just borrowed from Kingdom Hearts for the locales and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix for the Castle Oblivion stuff. I find it all the more unappreciative that each room only needed to be retextured from each other, not even remade. Even though the GBA iteration had rooms that looked strikingly similar in terms of layout, there was still always the fact of it being made from the ground up using pixels. I'm saying that visually, this game was very easy to make, and combat-wise, they already had quite a solid base, so the only real effort that I see here lie in the cutscenes. There aren't as many as in a full Kingdom Hearts game, but what is there looks really good. On the original versions. You see, my Wii U GBA emulator had this really weird problem where character sprites would just pop in instead of fade. I don't think this is supposed to happen, but it was all I had to record footage with at the time, so just a heads up. In ReChain of Memories, the game brings back the voices from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, except they sound a bit off. Not so much in terms of their actual voice as it is 6 years later, but their delivery rather. This is quite apparent because they dubbed it. Now obviously, I wouldn't really mind or care if it was just straight up subbed, but after coming straight out of Kingdom Hearts 1, whose English dub was keyframed with all versions of the voice acting mind you, it's a bit jarring. There's also a very noticeable blurriness to point out in the HD remaster. I was unfortunately unable to find good enough quality footage to compare the 2 versions, but trust me, this fuzziness is nowhere near as apparent in the PS2 game. If I had to guess why it turned out this way, I would probably chalk it up to the cutscenes being pre-rendered. Even jumping in from the clearest scenes to actual gameplay, the in-engine stuff is a lot sharper. I think that's enough differences for now though. Let's move on from Traverse Town. Upon reaching the end, Aerith warns Sora to beware his memories, foreshadowing the events to come. Exiting the world takes us to the next floor. Here we meet the charismatic redhead, AXEL. Got him memorized? Before that became his signature catchphrase from KH2 onwards, it was originally committed to memory. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as much, does it? Not only is this guy just insane, he also sounds like a much more mature version of Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2. Granted, they are both played by QUINTON FLYNN, but that's besides the point. Take notice that each member of this organization commands a certain element, with AXEL's being the age-old passion, fire. In contrast to Kingdom Hearts 1's magic, elemental weaknesses play a huge role here, especially for each organization member. But this isn't your typical Pokemon game. The three primary elements are fire, ice, and thunder. Ice can be obtained by exploring Traverse Town, fire is available to you after beating AXEL, and lightning is given to you after defeating another organization member. Apparently though, this game is too hard for some people to even get to the second act. Looking back, I understand this for the original version as you can't select a difficulty, but you seriously didn't want to try beginner mode here? So what if it's a shot at your pride? If you refuse to take the time to learn the mechanics, then why even bother on the higher levels? I personally found the games pretty straightforward for both versions, but let's say that's because I already know what to do. Look at this, I'm being extremely reckless on Proud Mode and I still won! Since I've leveled up, might as well make another quick interjection. You don't get experience simply by defeating enemies. Each enemy will drop a certain amount of experience crystals, and you have to pick those up in order to claim that EXP as yours. By getting the required amount, you'll level up. Leveling up lets you increase your health points, which is pretty self-explanatory, card points that increase the capacity of the cards you can carry in your deck, or slates. Again, pretty self-explanatory. I would recommend going for CP over HP and slates over CP. My pattern was to distribute CP every 3 or 4 levels, increasing my HP every 5th level. It may seem a bit silly to do, but you won't be laughing when you start running out of cards! Cutting back, winning against AXEL gives us 5 new world cards. Upon signing off, he asks Sora who he thinks is most important to him, as well as leaving him with an ominous warning.
But be forewarned. When your sleeping memories awaken, you may no longer be who you are now.
Weird. Up the stairs, Goofy tries to recall the events of adventures past, but the castle's grip appears truly evident. He can't even recall the name of Hollow Bastion, but he sure does try. We are now allowed to visit the next set of worlds in any given order. The cards in hand hold the first 5 worlds after Traverse Town, excluding Deep Jungle. Instead of talking about each world individually, I would much rather lump them together into these sets and talk about their central theme. In Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts has lost her memory. Forgetting that she forgot, Alice is spared a gruesome fate. Cloud is searching for his memories in Olympus Coliseum, with Hades lying about recalling them from the underworld. Agrabah's story encourages Aladdin to face the truth, and be himself as he confronts Princess Jasmine. Inside Monstro, Jiminy Cricket learns that even if true friends are lost for a time, they will be reunited again. And lastly, the story of Halloween Town is all about finding one's true memories. Oogie Boogie is the one to draw his out, but the plan completely backfires on him, with his true fears welling up from inside. Yeah, they don't particularly seem engaging, cause they aren't. But they do have that really neat thing of tying in with the main story, so I found their inclusion to be amiable at least. Entering floor 3, Goofy is still incapable of remembering Hollow Bastion's name, yet he does remember Sora using the Keyblade of Hearts to free Kyrie's heart, turning himself into a Heartless. Donald asks Jiminy if the name of the world is still in his journal. To the Cricket's surprise, every single word has vanished. It then dawns upon our heroes that the deeper they head into the castle, the more of their memories that they'll lose. Donald then asks if Sora even wants to continue, knowing that forgetting their friends is a prevalent possibility. However, Goofy puts their fears at ease, saying that no matter how bleak the situation may get, forgetting their friends is out of the question. Thus, the consequences are on them. To make sure they haven't forgotten, Chain of Memory starts to use its not-so-subtle technique of laying down some hard exposition, stating what anyone who remembers the last 20 minutes of Kingdom Hearts should know. Heading up the stairs, Goofy tries to think of anything that he could have forgotten.
I can't think of anything, so maybe that means that I really am losing my memories.
No, Goofy, that's what we call circular reasoning! Stop! Sora, on the other hand, recalls the promise he made to Kyrie, and even brings out her good luck charm.
I'll never forget making that promise.
Yeah, sure. Tell it to the girl right behind you. Cutting to the top floor, AXEL and another organization member, Larxene, are engaging in a conversation regarding the interest they've taken in Sora. AXEL says he's intrigued by Sora's strong will, even being able to hold on to his human emotions as a Heartless, referring to Ansem as the only other person to do such. This organization's mission is to unlock the mysteries of the heart, and Sora wielding one of the few remaining Keyblades makes him a big target. We also see that same girl from the intro and Sora's flashback, inserting herself into a drawing with Sora, Kairi, and Riku. Suspiciously enough, right after that scene, Sora remembers her. Apparently she was one of the children Sora would play with on Destiny Islands as a child, but she just one day disappeared, and over time the memories of her faded. Proceeding to the 6th floor, more about the effects of Castle Oblivion come to light. Out of the 4 who entered, Sora is the only one remembering things. Jiminy hypothesizes that the only way to draw out the true memories buried deep within their hearts is to delve further into the castle. Even though they're way in over their heads and in much greater danger of forgetting things more than they're remembering, I've resigned myself to the fact that this is a game and nothing will stop them from reaching the end, even if it does make them look a bit stupid here. Lexine then sends herself down to the next level.
Don't break him. Sora is the key. We need him if we're going to take over the organization.
I know that you're in on it too. But keep it under your hood, at least until the time is right.
Man, what is wrong with these people? Alright, I've completely skipped over the bosses. Let's do a quick lightning round on them up to this point. Trickmaster is almost a one-to-one copy of his original battle, only he uses the mechanics here in a way that disallow you from effectively using slates. Just think methodically, use combos when necessary, and his card will be yours. Using it in battle decreases the enemy's card values when they perform a card break on you. Next up is Hades, who will counter your attacks with slates of his own, assuming you don't have too many high number cards. Defeating him gets you the Hades card, which will increase the attack power of your red cards when low on HP. Jafar's battle is really tedious and annoying, with you having to jump on his platforms to attack the lamp while hoping he doesn't break your played set. Once he goes down, you do actually get a good reward, with his enemy card literally stopping the opposition from breaking the attack cards you use for the next 20 moves, which comes in real handy later on. The Parasite Cage battle is a little bit more irritating than it needs to be, with the stomach acid inside the arena flinching Sora when he stands on it, making it impossible to pull off most combos. Its card is definitely my least favorite. You can nullify an enemy card for one use, so it's essentially an extra 0. Not like I don't have enough of those at this point. Last but not least is Oogie Boogie, who has the most unique battle thus far. The whole fight is about breaking Oogie's cards, and by doing it 3 times or using a gimmick card, he will become open to attacks for a short while. Using his card in battle will restore some HP for 10 heals, very useful in a pinch. Upon beating the last available card world in your deck, Sora meets Larxene. She's cold, cocky, and for some reason makes me want Wendy's.
It's way better than fast food. It's Wendy's.
She tells Sora that the girl from his memories is locked away, and he has to go through the bad guys to reach her. After saying this, she knocks him flat and another Lucky Charm comes flying out. It's similar to Kairi's, except it takes the shape of an actual Paopu fruit. Seeing this causes Sora to remember the girl's name, Naminé. Just as Larxene is about to smash the thing, Sora knocks it out from under her, provoking the fight. Like AXEL, she's quite easy, especially when using the right slates. Granted, she does use her own slates and even 0 cards at points, but rarely does she capitalize on them. From this victory, we get the Thunder Magic card and 4 new world cards. Back at the Org's Lounge, member number 4 steps in. His name is Vexen, and he will be the mad scientist for the day. Just hear this guy's laugh. Freaky. AXEL then gives him the card to Destiny Islands. The Doctor then sends out his personal experiment to further the research on the Keyblade Master. The 4 worlds this time around are Neverland, Hollow Bastion, the 100-Acre Wood, and why? Why? Okay, maybe I'm overreacting. There's no way it can be as bad as KH1's. And I'm right. Thankfully. That was a close one. The focus has now shifted from finding lost memories to holding on to new ones. Ariel's whole arc this time around is set up in her stealing and misusing King Triton's trident. Once again, with Ursula stealing it and using it again. Her boss fight is nowhere near as much of a pain in the tailfin as her first incarnation, and that isn't a bad thing. Due to the swimming controls being ousted, thank God, and having the freedom of legs underwater become a simple game of attacking the tricky tentacles until she falls. From this lesson, Ariel realizes that the actions she took to save her friend Flounder, while very stupid, were worth it in her heart. for the idiot that she is. And she doesn't want to lose those memories by lying to her father. Again, idiot that she is. Neverland takes us back to the Jolly Roger, where Peter Pan attempts to rescue Wendy, but abandons her when she tells him that she wishes to return home. Wow, there's just so many flaws with these characters this time around for some reason. The obligatory battle with Captain Hook is without a doubt the most difficult in this set, as when he gets a single parry on you, he will keep spamming and spamming until you die. After taking him down though, Peter tells Wendy that the reason he didn't want her to leave was so she could never forget Neverland. But Wendy and Sora reassure Pan that they would never forget it, and so he returns Wendy home. Man, that was really simple. Hollow Bastion's story is more so solely focused on Beauty and the Beast, as opposed to all the other princesses like in the first game. Belle tries to turn Beast away in order to avoid her heart getting too attached, with Maleficent making use of that love. Her fight is exclusively the dragon for this battle, and it's so easy in comparison to before. Nothing stands out compared to the first take, and it's a real shame too, as that was one of my favorite battles there. When the end comes around, Beast only wishes to let go of the painful memories inside his heart, and start making newer, more beautiful ones. Lastly, but most importantly, is the 100-Acre Wood, a world that does not follow the conventions of this gameplay. 90% of the time. Not unlike the first game though is the story. Winnie the Pooh has forgotten where his friends are and Sora steps in to help find them. As you progress, various minigames will be playable during your time here. It's also a great way to farm Moogle points. Moogle points are your currency to buy more cards. You can do this in various Moogle shops which open up using the right room card. There are varying levels of value the further you go, with the Leaf Lock having the lowest value cards and the Moogle locked ones containing the highest value. Even if you're low on a good amount of high number cards, synthesizing one of these rooms gives you a free deck that you can save scum until you get a good one or two. I'd recommend farming the Moogle points now however, as it just becomes more tedious to come back later on. Heck, it's already tedious. Finding 10,000 points to spend and using 20,000 points to get only 2 trophies is just not worth it in my opinion. If you absolutely want to though, then I guess I can't stop you. Good luck. 100-Acre Wood is the best place for this because you can farm MP out the wazoo, obtaining nearly 500 points every 2 to 4 minutes. Calculating that, you would still need to farm for about an hour just to get near 10,000 points, but if you have the cards for it, then just sell them all, and synthesize a bunch of rooms while you're at it. Get the trophy without saving the game, and then reset. That takes care of the last 4 Disney Worlds, so how about those intermediary segments? Well, it turns out that Vexen's little experiment is Riku? And he's back to his snarky KH1 persona. Great! Throughout this next act, he becomes the center point, relentlessly attempting to turn Sora back and take care of Naminé on his own. His fights make liberal use of the high-powered slates and zero cards, becoming all the more necessary to use the Jafar card from Act 1. I'd also recommend using the Blitz slate. It's a fairly powerful move even on Proud mode and deals a good chunk of damage at this point in the game. Slates are less of a luxury and more of a necessity in the GBA version, but proper persistence will put him in his place. The second encounter 1 floor up is similar but a lot more aggressive, even using stronger attack cards and having more health. While he goes down just as easy as the first fight in Rechain, I noticed that I used the Cloud card a lot more in the original. Either way though, he isn't too challenging here. Once again, he urges Sora to return home and take care of Kairi, reminding him of his former words. But once they go up those stairs, Sora absolutely forgets about her, in spite of her name just being mentioned. I wouldn't have had a problem with him forgetting Kairi over time in the castle, but it just happens so quickly. It gives the game some narrative whiplash. Although the plot continues to thicken when we return to the lounge, as Larxene and Vexen argue, laying down some new information for those who didn't get a chance to play KH Final Mix, the entire organization lacks hearts, which is why they've taken an interest in the research of hearts. If you recall the fight with the Unknown, then these forms already have names. Nobodies. To break up the scuffle, our main villain is finally brought towards the forefront. Marluxia, host of Castle Oblivion and number 11 in the organization. Make no mistake, he may look flowery and his lack of a voice originally led many to believe that he was in fact a female. Just know that Rechain makes a great effort to instill the fact that Marluxia is a man, just with pink hair. Concluding the meeting, Marluxia sends Vexen to eliminate Sora. He gladly obliges and heads down to floor 11, and why did the game take a difficulty spike? I don't mean coming from 100-Acre Woods to this, but seriously, After the previous battle with Riku, why is the game so hard now? Here is where the magic plays a huge factor into these boss fights. As Vexen commands the element of ice, your ice cards will actually restore his health. It's near useless to use single cards too, seeing as he carries a ton of 9s and 0s. You should also be wary to carry 0 cards because they become the only method of opening up Vexen to attacks. He carries this giant shield in front of him, blocking every single move Sora can muster. Breaking a card in his deck will allow you to use either a slate or a combo. Even with these in mind, he's still extremely difficult, freezing you before striking with a powerful hit or breaking your cards with a quick but forceful swing. That is, until I found the Game Breaker, folks. This tactic only works in Rechain of Memories, so GBA players, you're out of luck. To beat every boss, all you need is 5 sets of 3 unique 7 cards that can chain even after reloading. Add some zeros, heals, and a magic card or 2 for good measure and you're ready to go. This becomes a near unbreakable Sonic Blade deck, countering right into the unblockable slate. Of course, add more 7s as your CP goes up, but at this point in the game, 5 should be enough. When I say this works on every boss, I mean every boss. That's grounded anyway, which is most of them, save for one near the end. The reason this really doesn't work on the GBA version is because the bosses move around a lot, and the fact that there isn't a lock-on feature doesn't help either. It's not that the bosses are impossible without it, just more time-consuming, which is ironic considering the Rechain bosses are about 4 times shorter. If you remember earlier, Vexen received a card of Destiny Islands, but that's not what he gives Sora. This one in his hand leads to Twilight Town, a place significant to the other side of Sora's heart. But what that means will be answered another time. In layout, it's like every world we visited prior, but in design, everything is new to the player. From the music to the set pieces, nothing even closely resembles a world from KH1. However, since it does only have one place to go, this ends up being the shortest world in Sora's story, being locked behind a mere Key of Beginnings door. Inside, or I guess outside, is a looming mansion. Vexen and Sora exchange one final time.
It is on the other side of your heart that the memory of this place exists. It is your heart that remembers.
You're wrong! I don't know this place!
If you remain bound by the chain of memories, and refuse to believe what is truly found inside your heart, then throw it away. You are not a Keyblade master, just a slave to twisted memories.
Thus, the final battle with Vexen ensues. No matter how overpowered your deck is, this guy is still a challenge, employing the dirty trick of auto life. The fight goes from being on the offensive and overpowering him to a competition of counters, and it was close. Literally, this was my reaction, albeit a bit exaggerated for entertainment purposes. Okay, I can do this. I'm so close. I've done this like 5 times. Take this! Come on, one more. Ah! 0! I'm so close. Just kill him. Hey! Oh, come on! This is so close. Yes! From this, we get his unique boss card, which I'll just put it right there and leave it. Maybe even sit on it, who knows. With Vexen at his rope's end, he gives Sora one final warning about Castle Oblivion, telling him to beware becoming Marluxia's pawn. Before he spills the beans, however, AXEL just straight up murders him. How are these people friends again? He's literally heartless. Alright, they all are. Passing the Conqueror's respite, Riku is waiting for Sora yet again. He retells of a promise he made to Naminé, showing Sora the keepsake that she gave to him.
2 of them?
He's the same as the last fight, nothing to see here, moving on. With Riku defeated 3 for 3, he leaves behind the charm and it turns into Destiny Island's card, which we saw previously. In a fit of anger, Sora leaves behind Donald and Goofy, heading off on his own. AXEL comes back to Naminé's room and lets her go to Sora. With that, he laughs. Why this is so important will be answered at a much later time. But now, we head back to the islands. One card, one world, Two Destinies. When Sora enters the illusion, memories of all his friends come rushing back to him. These phantoms always keep referencing her, even Riku, despite Sora forgetting who he is. Not 5 minutes later. Ugh. Reaching the end brings us to, what else? The Darkseid battle. I wouldn't place him any higher in difficulty than the original incarnation, but the GBA one is a lot more boring. All you need to do is wait for him to punch the ground and then wail on him. Wait, strike, repeat, and that's it. You're done. By doing this, Naminé and Sora are reunited. She tells him that the reason Sora was able to find Castle Oblivion to start with was because she called out to his heart and he responded. Just when this moment was starting to make you feel good, Naminé lays down the hard truth. She doesn't really exist. She is, in fact, a nobody. But whose exactly is not confirmed here. Exhorting Sora to remember who is really the most important person to him, her good luck charm reverts to KHAce. Being so deep into the castle, his memory of that charm is faded. Nonetheless, he feels a familiar aura. Lying in wait beyond this exit is Riku. This is where most people's runs actually do end. I mean, I can't exactly blame them, just look at this craziness. There's no way you can possibly react to that. However, with some perseverance, I dwindled him down to the last because Sonic Blade for the win! He uses the last of his strength to attempt to take Sora down, but Naminé breaks his heart. From the darkness, Larxene appears one last time, telling Sora not to worry, as the real Riku was never inside the castle to begin with. You liar! Also, Rechain completely screws this plot twist over seconds before it happens. Dang it, game! We are then revealed Naminé's true power.
She can enter, rearrange, and even create new memories of anything, even things that never happened.
Immediately following this revelation, Sora feels a sense of anger, but is too worn out from his encounter with the Riku replica. Luckily for him, Donald and Goofy return to the party and the final battle with Larxene begins.
Okay, have it your way.
I've had enough of your fast food promotions. You get the Sonic Blade!
This can't be happening!
Man, does this break the game or what? I love it! With the second but definitely not last organization member down, Naminé comes clean about her role in this play.
I took the people and memories that were inside Sora's heart, and little by little I replaced them with false memories. Sora never really promised me anything. Me being with him on the islands, that was a lie, just like everything else. You see, in all of your true memories, I was never really there.
The only way that they can go back to the way they were before entering Castle Oblivion is by going to the Restoration Chamber on floor 13. The end is nigh, folks. It's time to find Marluxia and finish the job. Now, CO is bar none the biggest world in Chain of Memories, containing nearly 20 rooms to explore. As you proceed naturally, not by using any criteria cards, the story automatically progresses. One final meeting between AXEL and Marluxia initiates, where we, the audience, find out that AXEL is, in fact, a double agent. He was told by a higher-ranking member to eliminate anyone under the suspicion of treason, assassinating Vexen to gain the traitor's trust. Better go take him on then. Ha! You think a door can keep me out? I'll have you know that... Oh no. I don't have the card! Getting that was probably harder than the boss is going to be, isn't it? During the clash of conflict, Marluxia brings Naminé back to him, this time as a shield. Makes you wonder why he couldn't do this earlier. Sora steps in to protect Naminé, but vows to go after Marluxia next. And thus, the final encounter with AXEL begins. Ends, because Sonic Blade. Pursuing the boss, Sora is finally able to take on Marluxia himself. And you know, for all the jokes I've pounded into this video about Sonic Blade being OP, it actually doesn't make much of a difference in this fight. Heck, with it being near useless in the original, I ended my run back in the day and never returned to it. But you know what? Let's do this. It's time to defeat what held me back these past 13 years. Let's go! Accompanying these next few phases are some of the only original tracks in the game, this one being Graceful Assassin, a wonderfully intense track to listen to for this duel of destinies. It sets the mood well. Despite what you may think, there is no simple way to approach this flowery fiend. All his attacks and slates are most likely stronger than yours, leaving you vulnerable 90% of the time. The only way I found around this is to stock up on MP in the 100 Acre Wood, save scum a good amount of cards with 7s and 9s on them, create your deck composed of 0s and higher numbers, and then it becomes a game of countering. You countering him with 0s, and him countering back with anything but 0. That's not all, however, as you need to understand your mobility in this game. Dodge rolling is a requirement, and not knowing how to do it will be your ultimate demise. Eventually, after many tries of countering, waiting, and skillfully parrying, I do take him down. But this is Kingdom Hearts. No final boss is going to just be one phase long. You may not believe that he has a lot of health, but tell that to the 10 minutes it took to beat him. Now to be fair, this can come down to my slate choice, but don't I look rad as heck? It is nigh impossible to strike a single blow on him until the scythes on his armor have been compromised. You know, the more aesthetic I see of Marluxia, the more fitting I find it that his voice actor went on to play Reaper in Overwatch. Going back to the fight though. In either version, I wouldn't call this form particularly tough. The most difficult out of the three to be sure, but still really easy. If anything though, I guess the GBA one has the edge for pure satisfaction after fighting it for so long. That and it is the final boss in that version. Thank goodness they toned him down in the remake, except they only did that to make a third phase. To establish the finality, the only song unique to this remake and this fight plays. Lord of the Castle, a favorite amongst fans. The distinctive spin of trumpets and a harp are seldom used in these soundtracks, but here they emanate an aura that can only originate from such a unique title. Don't think you can just spam Sonic Blade like the rest of the fights though, oh no! Well, you can actually, but not as much as you'd think. The only cool thing this guy does is scatter your cards every so often, assuming you don't break the attack. No matter how great his theme is though, I gotta give points to the original game here. It made what is a sad joke in the remake a complete test of dexterity. He may have an insane amount of health, yet overcoming the endgame was just more satisfying. With Marluxia dead, Sora seals the world's keyhole. To that end, the Riku replica returns to say his goodbyes, heading back into the castle to finish his business. Naminé and our heroes are the only ones left now. She takes them to the restoration chamber where she'll be able to relink their memories, putting them back to normal, but forgetting the events that transpired. And before you call this a cop-out, I'll just say that, while their memories are gone, the repercussions are not, adding an extra layer of weight to Sora's decision. As not to truly forget her, Jiminy scribbles down one line in his journal. Thank Naminé. The gang heads to sleep, with Sora remembering his light within the darkness. Kairi appears as a vision, and Naminé says goodbye.
A promise is a promise.
Yes. One day the light. It will be ours, and it will bring us together. Till then, I'll be in your heart.
Right. Forgotten, but not lost.
Sora's story is now over, but if you thought we were done, you'd be dead wrong. Just look at how many minutes are left in this video. There's an entire post-game to complete, but how can we do that if Sora's asleep? Throughout the credits, two scenes show us just what's up. Riku's replica can be seen being recruited by AXEL, who is still alive, and the remaining organization members are seen in a room. 13 total seats, with 7 chairs empty. What's that? We only took down 3 members? That, my friend, is what Riku's story is for. Upon beating the final boss once in Sora's side, the Reverse Rebirth storyline is unlocked. It's quite a bit shorter than the main game, only taking about a third of the time to beat. This is necessary to complete the game nonetheless, so let's begin once more. Adrift in the darkness is Riku, separated from King Mickey following the events of KH1. A voice speaks to him, doing his best to coerce Riku to sleep in the darkness. Refusing, Riku receives a world card to Hollow Bastion. Beyond the door is the world he once called home. He's not capable of seeing any good person from his past. Instead, only denizens of the dark reside in his memories. From the outset, it's clear that Riku plays quite a bit differently from Sora, only utilizing his Soul Eater as opposed to any Keyblade. However, this weapon's deck doesn't take any time to reload. Predetermined enemy and number cards are tied to each world, meaning that while your strategies may differ, the tools with which you use them are the same. He controls heavier than Sora, but attacks stronger and levels up quicker. By the end of Hollow Bastion, I was already near level 10, guaranteeing that this is a more compact story if anything else. No in-world scenes play out, and the only criteria card you need is the Key of Beginnings. The bosses inside each world are so similar to their pre-existing counterparts in the game, they aren't even worth talking about, so I won't. Considering the remainder of Riku's story will be tying up loose ends, you can skip right here to the completion bonuses. They spoil some of the characters, but not the context. Once he prevails inside Hollow Bastion, Riku is greeted by a familiar figure right outside the hall. Who would it be but Ansem, starting the very common trend of characters not dying in this series. Of course, with such an established villain in the way, we have to fight him. The only reason this happens is to teach Riku his two unique mechanics in Rechain. The first is Rapid Break, which does what it says. The other two of the abilities is Riku's duel system. Pretty much when you and your opponent draw the same card, a quick match of the card game War ensues. When your opponent will place a card out, you must use the same card or higher to win. Doing so will perform a unique slate that will deal a 10 of damage. Like the organization members, the battle with Riku produces a card from his memories, with Ansem proposing a bet. If Riku can make it through all the worlds without fully giving into the darkness, he wins! As a parting gift, Ansem unlocks a tiny temptation to use the darkness from within. This will give Riku the ability to change from his normal to dark form after breaking a certain amount of cards in battle. You can only use slates in Riku's story while in his transformed state, so make the most of it. Mickey soon appears before Riku, offering his help from a distance as his power is only strong enough to materialize an intangible image. Concurrently, we see two new organization members down in the basement. Zexion, Vexen's understudy, and Lexaeus, the heavy man of the gang. As of now, they are observing Riku, saying that his scent is near identical to their leaders. Before they advance any further though, they decide to wait and see what develops. Vexen, as he's still alive here, suggests that if Marluxia is to use Sora for his own purposes, then Riku could be the only countermeasure. The doctor goes down to the 10th floor basement. When Riku asks if he's with Ansem, Vexen becomes very cryptic, but not indecipherable.
You are half correct. Let us say that he is not the Ansem with which you are familiar. He is Ansem, and he is not Ansem. Perhaps a nobody best conveys the idea. He belongs to neither the light nor the dark, but walks the twilight between.
For Kingdom Hearts Final Mix players, this confirms that the Unknown is the leader of the organization. After triumphing over Vexen, he gathers the data used to make Riku's replica. Later on, the two Rikus come face to face, mirroring who Riku was with what he has become. Not much in terms of development happened for the next few floors, but we do replay a scene from earlier in the story with an extra bit added. Before Sora meets the Riku replica, Vexen decides to brainwash his memories and desires to outdo the real Riku, replacing them with memories that he has in the main plot. Upon Vexen's assassination, Lexaeus deems the situation worthy enough to go after Riku. During this encounter, he taunts our hero for forsaking the dark, and vows to do him in. The best thing you can do for this boss battle is make full use of the duel system. Successfully chaining together a slate of 7 cards will deplete 1 full bar of health each time, although you must wait for the appropriate time frame. For a split second, full darkness overtakes Riku, but Mickey comes in just in time to rescue him. At the foot of the 3rd basement floor, Marluxia falls, and Zexion gives Riku Destiny Island's world card. Within the illusion, we see Sora. He attacks Riku with the light, but just when Riku is about to be consumed by it, Kairi encourages him to face it with his darkness. Not to abandon the light, but grow stronger with both. It gives Riku the push he needs to get through the barrier and destroy the illusion of Sora that Zexion created. And now we reach my personal favorite boss in Rechain of Memories. The lexicons Zexion wields are the source of his power. Through these brandished books, he can summon copies of himself and scatter Riku's deck, similar to Marluxia's Desperation Slate. He's a very difficult target to lock onto, plus slates are very unwieldy here. It's just you and him with no room for error. I wish more bosses used the card mechanic in interesting ways like him, but I guess I have at least one cool challenging boss. Once victory over Zexion and his spheres are achieved, Riku reunites with Mickey, physically this time. No magic illusions here. He hands him the card to Twilight Town, where there he meets Ansem once more. This time though, he deduces that the Ansem before him is not the true Seeker of Darkness. His scent is too tame. As a bravo, the true mastermind introduces himself as Diz, Darkness in Zero, aka Count Dooku, because we have Christopher Lee up in here, and his voice just fits the guy so well. He asks Riku to make a choice once he meets Naminé, to go to sleep like Sora and lock away Ansem inside his heart, or to stay awake and face the darkness on his own. The only way to find this answer out is by going through the Key of Beginnings and... why does this keep happening? After going through hell and back to get that card, Riku is at the feet of the mansion, facing his clone for the final time. With the fake Riku completely shattered by his existence, he fights for the title of One and Only. It's just so sad that after all that work to grow stronger and be a huge pain in the butt in Sora's story, he goes down in 1 minute to his true target. From this, the replica dies, 100% to never return from the abyss. Yet he does not fear death. The real Riku comforts him, assuring the copy that his heart will go to the same place as his own.
A faithful replica until the very end. That's okay.
The only thing left to do now is go inside and meet Naminé. Ultimately, Riku decides to stay awake, as merely discarding the problem of Ansem mentally doesn't rid him eternally. Besides, you can't tell Sora off if he's sleeping. Exiting Twilight Town, Diz meets back with Riku on the ground basement floor, giving him and Mickey coats not dissimilar to the organization to hide from their detection, as well as the final card to confront the darkness within. In the Castle Oblivion card is the true Ansem, Riku's Ansem, preparing to do battle. Regarding GBA chain, this takes the cake as the version's hardest fight, with quick cards and no reaction time. Easily, it took me 2 hours to just learn this guy's pattern, a stark contrast to the remake and its over-reliance on duels. I would have given up right then and there, seceding my pride to only complete his easier counterpart, but I took a nap, came back, and by some miracle, I beat him. As a final vow, Ansem promises to return once more, but for now, he's dead. Exiting Castle Oblivion, this comes back full circle with the very beginning, showing Riku at the road where Sora was in that time. Diz makes an offer before our two heroes, to choose the light and fight the darkness, or turn to darkness, forsaking the light.
I'm taking the middle road.
Do you mean the Twilight Road to Nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
And with that, Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories ends, and a lot of bonuses wait for us upon returning to Sora's story. These are of course non-canon, but fun little Easter eggs to those who dedicated their time. In each world's Room of Rewards, you can unlock cards based off of Kingdom Hearts 2 or 358 Days Over 2 depending on the version you're playing. They cover the remaining members of the organization, so for a spoiler's sake I'm only showing the Keyblade cards. To unlock these, you need either a Kingdom Hearts 2 save file or go through the 358 Day cinematics in the HD collection. Completing Sora's story alone will give you the One-Winged Angel Keyblade card, but beating Riku's story gives you the Ultima Weapon, Zexion, Lexaeus, and Ansem cards to use in battle as well. Finally, for collecting every single card in the game, you get the best cards of all time. Ones that are so good that by the time you get them, they're useless. The Gold card and Platinum card. The Gold card allows any and all premium cards to be reloaded. Premium cards are cards which have a little yellow number instead of a white one. They're more powerful and cost less CP, but can only be used once even after reloading normally. With the Platinum card, you will receive no damage for the next 20 attacks you use. A rather useless bonus, especially since I reached stinking level 99, but no, I'm sure it'll come in handy. Never. Okay, so the completion bonuses are a big disappointment, and the playtime to get them isn't all that enticing either, especially when you realize how much RNG plays into this. Getting all enemy cards is a mere matter of luck, and trust me, they are the most troublesome of the bunch, especially that darn white mushroom. Just no! I've linked an excellent tutorial by Everglow on how to get them as efficiently as possible. Just know that efficiency in this case doesn't mean super quickly. Still probably quicker than reaching level 99 though. My main concern with level 99 was the epiphany I got after it. There's no choice in this game. Outside of the cards you use for room synthesizing in combat, leveling up means nothing in the grand scheme of things. One player's Sora may have more HP by the end of the story, with another player's Sora having more CP. But once both players reach level 99, the differences are indistinguishable. It's such a missed opportunity, as it adds no replay value outside of going through the story again, which can be done with any game, so scratch that off. I beat Sora's story in roughly 15 hours, and I reached level 99 and collected every card 13 hours later. Riku's story is an even worse offender, as I cleared his campaign in 5 hours, with level 99 being achieved 10 hours later. At least I got the Platinum Trophy, and I'm never touching this game again. And that was Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Both versions. While I do have a great fondness for the GBA version being more unique and doing everything first, I just think I like Rechain more for its ease of access and third dimension. Although, if I ever want to come back again to a greater challenge, I know where to go. Whichever version you play, GBA, PS2, PS3, or PS4, I would say that this title is worth giving a shot at least once, and taking a half hour to learn the best ways of using the battle system. Although, I attribute the combat as its most prominent flaw. The only reason it exists was to make this game easier to produce. I think if the whole series were to be reworked, Chain of Memories would have had a normal combat deck, no gimmicks, just pure skill. Exploitable tactics and super cheap bosses wouldn't exist, and the world would be a better place. With what we have though, it serves its purpose and does so to a reasonably polished extent. I definitely like almost every other game in the franchise better than this one gameplay-wise, but the story kept me very intrigued and is a necessary factor for Kingdom Hearts 2. How so? Well, before we continue on with the saga, I'm going to take a little break from Kingdom Hearts next month to focus on something a little more simple, I guess. You'll see what I mean by that soon enough. I'll see you guys then.